everyone. Let's pop over here so you folks can see me, shall we? Hello, hello. Welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is VooDoo Val, and I'm going to be your host yet again for the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge. We are moving into challenge number 3 of this set. It's a short set. I'm sorry to say goodbye to it. I've had a lot of fun with these sort of vacation-themed challenges thus far. It's been a good time. We are kind of moving into autumn, into fall here. I'm not sure I'm quite ready to say goodbye to summer yet, so we've been doing some summer beach photos. We've been doing a little bit of Photoshop compositing. We've been diving into creating some animated videos with Photoshop and Adobe Express, and today we're going to be making an animated video simply within Photoshop with some help from Adobe Fonts, Adobe Stock, a little bit of generative features, some generative AI magic in there, and then we're going to be exporting a video directly from Photoshop. So without further ado, we are going to pop over and take a look at our starter file, which you can get if you check out the description below this video and download it for yourselves. There's a lot of good links to resources and things which we will be using for today's video. So let's go ahead and sort of pop over here so you folks can see what we've got going on. So this is the challenge 3 starter file. As you can see, we've got our little description here using Adobe Stock to lay the foundations of our video today. We've got an interesting background image from Stock, which we're going to be using. Then we're going to use Generative Fill to create and add elements to our composite. And finally, use the timeline animation tools to create a frame animation, which I'm pretty stoked about. So as you can see, we've got our background base from Adobe Stock. We've got our waves images, which we are going to kind of dabble with today. And we also have a couple of fonts from Adobe Stock today, and we're going to take a look at what those look like. So I'm going to grab my window over here so you folks can take a peek. First of all of our stock photos are coming from the free section of Adobe Stock. So all of you folks out there, if you are, if you don't have stock credits and you don't want to buy stock credits, you do not have to spend money today in order to do this challenge. I highly recommend coming over to Adobe Stock and checking out this free section, which all you have to do is on the front page, Adobe or stock.adobe.com. There's all these different categories where you can search by the various kinds of elements like images, videos, audio, templates, all this kind of stuff, and just select free from here. And then you can come in and start typing around and find all kinds of really awesome, super high quality free assets, which you can either download, or as you start to license them, you can actually add them directly into an Adobe CC library. We are going to be working with this image here, which is like an aerial view of a really beautiful beach for our background image today. And then I also grabbed us a few images of crashing waves. So we've got these big sea waves. We've got these crashing waves here. And all you would have to do here, mine says re-download for free because I have licensed it, but on your screen, if you have not licensed these free images, it will ask you if you want to license it, and it will put it into a library which you can either access directly in Photoshop or just grab wherever that file downloads and drag it directly into your app. We are also going to be using some pretty cool fonts. Montserrat is one of my most favorite fonts. It is a free Adobe font, and there's a lot of different weights, as you can see here. It's super versatile. It's something that I use all the time for the challenges and a lot of social media posts and things because it is so bold, and it can also be quite elegant, I think, especially with the Montserrat thin italic here. And then we're also going to be using the Calgary script. Calgary script is kind of a fun font. I think that, like, as you can see here in a lot of the images where you can see examples of how it is used, it can be really punchy, it can be really bold, it can be fun. But what we're going to use it for today is kind of an accent script, a secondary script in our project, which will lend a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of movement, but also a lot of class to our project for today. As you dive into Adobe fonts, maybe you would like to use something totally different than mine, what I have chosen, because maybe your project looks different. You don't have to do a vacation photo image today. You can do whatever you want. And I highly recommend, if you're hunting around on Adobe fonts, check out the main page, which has all these amazing new releases, which some of these are just totally mind-blowing. Like, look at these are so good, especially the I really love this Fabiola. Shout out to Fabiola from our Adobe Live team. I bet you she would love this. But yeah, you can check out all of these really great things. And then hunting around for great fonts is very easy on Adobe fonts. This is actually how I decided that I was going to use the Calgary script, by going to all fonts and coming into the brush pen section. So as you do that, you can see you get a lot of these really nice funky script kind of fonts, and you can do a lot of noodling around with your search filters visually. So instead of, maybe you do know a lot about fonts, maybe you know a particular font and you'd like to search, or you can come over here and check out the Halloween fonts, because we're coming into Halloween season. You can go by classification. It'll show you a nice visual identifier for what all of these classifications mean: handwritten, monotype, script fonts, slab serif, serif, sans serif, all these things. And you can also go by the weight, width, etc., and find yourself some pretty fun fonts. But we do already have a lot of our assets picked out today, so I'm going to bump this right over here and we're going to take a look at what we've got. I've got my library full of a lot of different images we've been using for these challenges. But what I am going to do actually is make sure I've got my background image, my aerial top view image here, and I'm just going to go ahead and double click that and open it up here in Photoshop, because we are going to work this or use this as our background. You could also, if you have this downloaded, you could also just kind of drag and drop and add this to your file as well. Your background is shaped to the proper ratio for this particular image if you're working along with me. And I'm also going to hide my info for now. Actually, I'm going to keep challenge out, because we're going to use our title from our info, but I'll hide the rest so that we don't have to look at it. And then I'm also going to snag our crashing waves, which we're going to be using, as I showed you. And then I'm also going to snag our, like, these big sea waves, which I really liked. And I've gotten you started with a few wave images, but all of these images, which you've seen, and if you followed along with previous challenges, they're all from Adobe Stock free. So I might snag this one as well, because I think this one is also pretty cool. All right, I'll go ahead and close my libraries. Now, one thing you'll notice about my workspace, which is different than our previous challenges, is that I do have the Adobe timeline open at the moment. And the Adobe timeline is easily accessible if you go up to Window and just select timeline here, and we'll get into that in a little bit. But for now, let's go ahead and situate how our little animated postcard for the day is going to look. I'm going to go ahead and hide our waves and our crashing big sea waves images. And we'll just use our aerial view background and our challenge 3 text. So I'm just going to hit V on my keyboard to access my move tool. I'm going to situate my large text in the center here, hit T on my keyboard to access my type tool, and I will actually just multi-click here to highlight all of these letters. And with caps turned on, I'm going to write the word vacay. Now this is our Montserrat font. Because I love it. I love how bold and punchy it can be. I love the word vacay as a shortener for vacation. And we're going to Control T and free transform. Now you can just change the size of the font if you prefer here. I am not worried about the font being a particular size. See, this is 178.38 point. That doesn't really bother me, but if it bothers you, feel free to choose a specific font size. I'm going to go ahead and highlight this and change this to black. I think I am going to change it to black. There we go, because I want this really, really bold. And this is going to make up kind of the body of our postcard. And then we're going to come in. I'm going to hit still with my, I could hit T on my keyboard, but I'm already selected. So just with my type tool, I'm going to tap away from my text here so I'm not accessing it again to start a new text layer. And I'm going to write without caps on, Adobe Live, and I'm going to write it out as all one word. And then I'm going to change this to our Calgary font. So let's come over here. I do have Calgary script OT selected already. You can see I've got a bunch of fonts. You can really experiment a lot here with font pairing, especially if you have this open and you just drag your cursor up and down and really choose, you know, kind of preview what you've got going on. So feel free to experiment a little bit. I'm going to go with my Calgary, and I'm going to change this to white, and then let's go ahead and click that layer to get out of my editor, hit V on my keyboard for my move tool, and I'm going to bring this down here. Now, I like this. This is kind of cool. It's got like kind of that island postcard vibe, but I want to add a little bit more movement to my font, so I'm going to go ahead with my type tool. I'll select, highlight all of this, and then I'm going to come up here to this nifty little icon. It looks like a little Bezier curve with a T hovering over it. I call it the T on a hill, which is the create warped text button, as you can see. And I'm going to go ahead and warp this text. So this is the window that will pop up, and I'm going to select the style and change it from none to rise. And this gives this nice little rise or like flag rise type effect here. And I'm just going to crank the bend down a little bit because I don't want it to be too crazy, but I do want it to have a little bit of movement since this is very much about waves and swirls and all of that stuff. So with this selected, let's go ahead and say okay. I will get out of the editing for that and hit V on my keyboard, and I'm just going to kind of hover this over here. I kind of liked that being right there. We could also put it like right here. That works. Another thing you'll notice is I am snapping. You see, this is all perfectly aligned. If as you are designing, you're not really seeing a lot of that, the snapping guides, those pink lines popping up, all you have to do is hit Control H on your keyboard to unhide them, and you will be able to use them. A quick tip about the Command H hiding and unhiding those guides is it works in a few different ways. So I have them on right now. You can see it's snapping to various elements in my scene, and it's also snapping to the center on each side of my canvas. And if I hit Control H, you can see that it turns off, and it's still got a little bit of snapping, but they're not showing up. Okay, so let's turn that back on just so that I can get back to this. Now, another thing that's actually really, really cool is if I free transform this, I can also Control H, and it will remove the guides for my free transform, but I am still free transforming this. So it's just, you know, kind of hiding that a little bit if those lines get a little annoying and you don't want to see them. I do, however, think, let's go ahead and get out of free transform with enter. I do, however, think one of the most useful ways that the hide and unhide guides can be used is the ability to use the selection tools and not have to see the marching ants dotted line. So if I do something like this where I can say hold Control and go ahead and click the icon for that Adobe Live layer, you can see it gives me the marching ants, and I can Control T. Well, this is a text layer, so I can't exactly here. Let's go ahead and duplicate that with Control J if you are on a PC, Command J if you're on a Mac. And I am just going to right click and say rasterize type. So let's just have a rasterized layer, and we'll hide our text layer underneath. So if I hold Control or Command and hit the icon for that, you can see I've got my little marching ants. And maybe I would like to, for whatever reason, start selecting and deselecting this. Maybe I'm just gonna, I don't know why I would do this for this project in particular, but I'm gonna go ahead and deselect some of this selection, which you can do easily by either holding Alt to subtract from a selection or Shift to add to it. But we'll go ahead and remove some of this. And then let's say I want to hit B from brush. I'm gonna grab like a soft round brush. Maybe I want to paint in here. I don't know. Maybe I want to grab some of this red reddish pink color. I don't know why, but maybe I want to, you know, paint around in here. But maybe I also don't want to see those marching ants. You can Control H, and you can see I'm still selected. Maybe I want to add some of this, you know, light color back in here. I can start doing that as well. And I just don't have to look at the selection, which is really, really useful if you're somebody that uses selections a lot. So there's a little tip for you. Let's go ahead and Control D to deselect. I'm also going to hit Control H to make my guides and things visible again. I'm going to delete that layer, turn our text layer back on. And let's go ahead and just, I think that is good right there. That looks pretty nice. Maybe a tiny bit lower. Might rotate a little bit. Try not to be too horribly precious with this, but it can be difficult because, you know, your eye starts twitching and you want to change things. This might work. This might work for me. I think maybe a little bit of overlap over that C is nice, so we don't get a bunch of tangents and things. Just make it overlap purposefully. But let's go ahead and leave it at that. We've got our Adobe Live Vacay, and now we're going to add a little bit of spice to it. We're going to add a little bit of pizzazz to this piece by creating this vibe with our crashing waves. Like these waves are kind of inside our large images, or our large letters, excuse me. And that's kind of one of those elements of those classic postcards, right? Is that they have like the scenery behind, and then the words that say whatever place you're sending the postcard to, with some landmarks or important locations within that space. So let's go ahead and kind of simulate that, shall we? I'm going to move our vacay underneath here. I am going to turn all of these on, and I'm going to select all of our kind of texture inner letter layers by holding Shift and then selecting the bottom and topmost layers I want to select, so I can select them all at one time. And then I'm going to right click and hit Create Clipping Mask. And this gives us this really nice kind of overlay here into our letters. Now, we do want to tweak this a little bit. I think our Adobe Live should definitely be on top of everything here so you can see it. And we're going to use our Move tool with just using our V key and kind of moving this around to give it this nice vibe. I kind of like this. Like that it gives us a little bit of these waves. It almost kind of looks like it's blending in with the waves and like the froth of the tide that you can see here a little bit, but also a little bit separate. This is kind of nice too, though, to have like this dark sand. Maybe we'll do like this. And then let's hide that one, and let's move this one around and see if we can get something we like there. I kind of like that. Want to pull it out from the background. I do like this darker color being in there, but I kind of like this more because it contrasts with our background a little bit better. So let's see, maybe we do something like that. And then we'll hide this one and kind of position this one as well. Maybe this one can be a lot darker than the others, kind of give it that dark vibe. Now what we're going to do is create a frame-by-frame animation that kind of cycles through these. So we've got a lot of them that look really cool, but I kind of want to create this idea that like it's Adobe Live Vacay and everything's like flipping through really fast of all of these waves. Now you might find the perfect wave images that work really well for this. I feel like I found a lot of them that look really cool, but you might want a few more because you want to create like not a strobing effect totally for something like this, but maybe you want a lot more movement. You want kind of a fast pace, a good speed for this. Rather than just flipping through 3 different images that gets really repetitive. So you can actually use the generative features within Photoshop to kind of create multiple versions of the kind of images that you want within Photoshop so that you can kind of supplement them in and around the photos that we've chosen. So I've got this nice, you know, I know I want some sand, I know I want some waves, and I know I want some like aerial views of a you know, like this water like this. So let's kind of experiment with what we can do with that, shall we? I'm going to go ahead and take all of this, our vacay stuff we've got going on here, and I'm just going to group that. We'll call this postcard so that it's all nice and neat together. Postcard. And I'm going to generate some extra images here. So on our background layer here, I'm going to say Control A or Command A if you are working on a Mac, and I'm just going to generate myself some cool images within Photoshop using my contextual taskbar. If you don't see your contextual taskbar, you can go up to Window, scroll on down to contextual taskbar right under Tools, and it will pop this little guy up here for you. And if you are using the contextual taskbar and you would like for it not to move around your workspace or to stay where you put it, check out the kebab menu here and go ahead and just check pin bar position so it'll stay wherever you place it. I like mine to be up here in the corner. And I'm going to say Generative Fill, and then I'm going to say, let's say bluish green crashing ocean waves. And we're going to see what kind of images we can generate here that we can use to supplement and kind of just add more content to the project we're working on. This is great. That's great. This is perfect. I can see that being right in there in that vacay. I like that. I think we're going to go with this one. This is pretty cool. So I'm going to go ahead and let's turn this on. I'm going to bring this into our group, and let's go ahead and see how that works. I'm going to turn this on a clipping mask. Boom. Looking very nice. Looking very nice. There we go. So we can grab a couple. You can make a couple more, too, if you want. I guess we could do another one about for sand and see what we get. Let's go ahead and we'll kind of close that, and we'll select our canvas again. And I'm just gonna go ahead and generate. Let's say. View of beach, sand with the tide rolling in. Let's see if this gives us some stuff that we can use for our animation. Give it a little thinking time and see what we get. That's not bad. That's not bad. I think that something that is great to point out here is as you're doing, because this is purely experimental, I'm not like changing one little portion of my image. I am effectively like generating a whole new image here with Generative Fill. So keeping track in the properties panel here on your generative layer, what you're actually using for your prompts, being able to go back and take a look at older prompts and stuff is really useful to kind of keep you on track for what it is you're actually trying to create. I like this, honestly. This is pretty nice. This could be really, really cool to do. I also really like this one. Let's go ahead and hit generate again and see if we get something that's a little more water in there, maybe a little more saturation. I could have added that into the prompt. I could have changed the prompt just then as well, but I don't mind what it is actually producing. I just want to see more ideas. This could work. Let's see. With a sunset in the background. Let's do one more and see what happens if I add like sunset. Maybe it'll give me kind of a wider view of a beach with more depth going on into the horizon. Maybe give us a little bit. Oh, that's actually really pretty. This could be pretty too. This one could totally work. I don't know if it matches really our colors that we've been using, so maybe we'll need a little bit more with that, but we'll take this one. We'll throw that in with our postcard, and we'll just see if it kind of works. Let's go ahead and put that on a clipping mask and see what we get, shall we? Create clipping mask. It might be a little bit too close to our sand color, but that's all right. We got one. we got one that we like, and we are limited on time, so I don't want to take too much time going through this, but basically now I'm going to create these frames by duplicating our postcard group here. So I'm going to hit Control J 3 times. And in each one of these, I'm going to hide a different image. Let's go ahead and have this one on in here. So all of these are kind of different. So we've got a different image showing up. Boom, boom. In this one, let's have this one visible. And in this one, let's have that one visible. Okay, let's see. Do all these change? Boom, boom, boom. So we've got 4 different versions of our vacay kind of showing what it says and toggling around. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, you could convert these to smart object. I'm going to convert them to smart objects individually. So now they're individual layers, which will make up the frames for our frame animation. I'm going to go ahead and delete our background because we don't really need our background. And then I'm going to come over here to our timeline. So in video timeline, instead of create video timeline, we will say create frame animation and go ahead and click that. And then in our little hamburger menu here, we're going to say make frames from layers. So you can see that adds, let me pop myself over to the other side of the screen here. That adds all of our layers from our layers panel as frames in our animation. And we can go ahead and play that through. So we have like kind of a little animation going on, and we can slow it down if we want to. We can change all of these to, maybe we want to do like more like 1 second as it toggles through. Maybe that's a little too long, but you can change the duration as much as you want. Maybe we'll do a ½ second and just let it kind of go through, and you can create something really, really cool with this. Then all you have to do to export is go up to edit, and I believe, let's go to, not edit, file, export, and render video, and it will give you the settings or the menu in order to render your video here. You can save it as an MP4. So that is all the time I have for you today, folks. That has been an absolute blast hanging out with you guys, doing some animation in the Photoshop timeline and whatnot. I hope that you all have had a good time, and I hope that you will tag me or post whatever you create for this challenge into the Discord. If you create a little vacation photo of your own, or if you create an animation that has nothing to do with vacations based on this challenge. Thank you all so much for joining me, and I will see you folks another time. Adios, everybody.